Hello and welcome to the Gaggle Global Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, this is now day 5 of this war on
It's not a
Iran.
war, George. It's not a
Not a
war.
war. It's not a war. It's a U.S. Israeli operation, and
U.S. Israeli strikes.
sometimes it's strikes, sometimes it's just operations, which sounds much nicer. And but of course Iran is attacking the Iranian attacks. Um, so it's becoming quite clear, first of all, that the United States is unable to get its story straight as to
Day five,
how,
everyone. Day
yeah,
five. Day five.
high five about the attack as to why they did this. So that's one thing. We'll talk about that. Um, they are having difficulties really outlining any kind of outcome that they are seeking, and that's a very problematic because it doesn't look on the face of it. Maybe you see something else, but that Iran is in any mood to negotiate or to surrender. Now, if Iran is not in a mood to negotiate or to surrender, then of course the United States does have a problem on its hands.
Yeah.
Like, how does it get out of this? Um,
Or what? How do you find winning
right. That's
so you can get out of it?
right. Exactly. That's the point. Because if the United States decides at some point, well, we're going to stop. Well, they will say, well, you've stopped, but what exactly have you accomplished? Now they might say, well, we degraded military capabilities. Okay, well, how long is it going to take for them to upgrade their military capabilities? I mean, at least, it's not that difficult. You can, I mean, we know from past bombing campaigns, including the bombing campaigns in World War II, that the victims of the bombing can usually reconstitute their capabilities pretty quickly once the bombing
Well,
stops.
actually, historical record shows that with massive Allied bombing of Nazi Germany under Albert Speer, they increased production.
Right, right, exactly.
Okay. I mean, even in the early months of 1945, they were chugging along. Okay. I mean,
Right,
it was a moonscape.
right.
I'm just
That's
proving George's point here.
no,
Okay.
that's right. So that's they've got that problem, and of course, Iran is fighting a very different war from the war that the United States and Israel would like Iran to fight, which is why hence the anger and frustration directed at Iran because Iran is not playing that game. Iran only has to raise the costs for the
Exactly.
United States and Israel. That's all it has to do. So it doesn't have to do anything else. It doesn't have to win this war. I mean, of course, it cannot win a war, but it can raise the cost, and the more it raises the cost, whether it's economic cost, financial cost, then there are obviously the political costs, particularly in the United States. So Israel is a little different, but in the United States there are costs. The Democrats now have the bit between their teeth, and they're running with it, attacking Trump for why he's launched this, what's the end game, and so on. However hypocritical, that's what politics is about. You see
And to add to
it
it,
come.
not all Republicans are on board,
Exactly, and that's the
which
other.
is okay. It's okay. I don't think we have to worry about where independents stand on this. I think that's self-evident. Okay, if the Democrats, they're running with it. The independents, well, obviously, they're dissatisfied with, and then we have a wobbly GOP. Need I say
That's
more?
right, and that's of course very serious because even if say okay, Trump will retain the overwhelming majority of Republican voters. Okay, that's maybe so. But you lose 10%, you're done. Election margins are settled by a lot less than 10%. They're settled by 1%, 2% at most. You lose 10% and you don't gain anything. You don't gain any votes because no one's going to vote for Trump who wouldn't otherwise have voted for him. So he's not going to gain any votes. So you lose 10%. and then you're looking at an absolute democratic
Okay,
blowout.
said differently, 10% is an extinction moment.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So that's that. So that pressure it will mount, and that's all Iran is playing on the pressure that you're going to keep applying this pressure. So the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed. So that basically that's gone. That's this is already reflected in oil prices. This, of course, completely undermines NATO's program in Ukraine because Russia's sitting very pretty. Oh, let's all those plans. Oh, we're going to seize all these ships, and in the high seas, we're going to drive down oil prices and drive down Russia's revenues. Russia's revenues are doing very nicely. Thank you very much for this spike in oil and gas.
A reliable supplier of petroleum during a time of crisis. My goodness. How did that happen?
That is also exactly a point. So you've cut yourself off from oil and gas, a safe and secure supply that came from the Soviet Union for decades and came from Russia for decades. That's gone.
And George, if you had gone the right way, the traditional way of long-term contracts, you would be saving a fortune off of the spot market. But you didn't want to go down that path.
That's right. That's right. And one should say that today, even as we speak, Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó is in Moscow. And interestingly enough, he's meeting President Putin, which is quite unusual for a foreign minister to get a meeting with the president. And I think he's trying to negotiate a contract for Hungary. In other words, hey, we know these prices are spiking, but can you make sure that we get long-term contracts at a decent price? And I think he'll get it. I mean,
I think you'll get it.
I think that's obviously that's gonna. I mean, I think the Russians quite appreciate Hungary's kind of even-handed approach.
Well, George, I think we're not in the game of predictions here. I think that's one of our saving graces. But I think that no matter this is going to last 4 or 5 weeks. I always double it. Just double it.
Right,
Okay. Um, Hungary's path to Moscow is a unique pilgrimage today. Maybe in 6 months it won't be so unique.
right.
Okay, save this space, everyone.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I mean,
Oh, what
when
happens,
you're up,
George?
when you're really up against it and you're facing no energy, I mean, you eat humble pie, and people are very much willing to eat humble pie when they're really up against it.
The Straits of Hormuz, if I'm not mistaken, is about 28 miles. Okay. The tankers are pretty big. Insurance companies are very stickler. They're sticklers for safety.
Right,
Five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 ships are sunk
right,
in that narrow body of water.
right, right, right.
You're going to risk
Right now,
taking.
that's right. Now the
No, no,
Russians.
no, no, no. We'll wait until it's cleared. That could take a year,
Yeah, no, that's right. And now,
maybe longer.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Now the U.S. is talking about providing naval support.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
try.
that's itself is
No,
a
you
problem.
don't even need missiles then.
Right.
You just have artillery.
That's right. That's right. And that's, I think, the interesting because we don't know Iran's capabilities. We do know Iran seems to have command and control is in place, despite those early setbacks, obviously, when the top military intelligence security leadership was wiped out. Nonetheless, command and control is in place. They're able to hit targets throughout the Gulf region, which itself is very interesting because the targeting is quite precise. I mean, they're hitting these embassies, they're hitting consulates, so they're actually quite precise in their targets. And therefore, you have also wonder, is there anyone? Are they getting help from somewhere for with the targeting? Um, but they have drones, and a lot of this is being hit by drones. And drone production, as we've seen in Ukraine, isn't that difficult. You can produce lots and lots and lots of drones, and they're relatively inexpensive. And you use your interceptor missile against a drone. That's not a good. There's no symmetry there. Those are
Yeah, and you know
expensive.
what?
Drones are cheap.
Fire 50 drones. If one gets in, mission accomplished.
Right, right, right. Um, so U.S. Embassies have been closed in the region. And so this is what I mean by asymmetric, because these things happen, America really does not look good, because this is a war of choice. If this has been forced on you, and these things happen, then you say, well, okay, well, it was forced on us. We didn't ask for it. But if you chose this, and these things are happening, then you have a real problem on your hands. That's all Iran is trying to do. So they're still able to fire at U.S. bases. It's able to fire at Israel, and it doesn't look to me like there's any desire for any kind of negotiations. And I think it's Trump who seems to be hinting that he would like to talk.
Well, yeah, but it'll be Iran, at least in this point in time, that will determine what will be negotiated. The script is flipped now.
Right,
So if you want to talk, you're going to talk about what we want, not what you want,
right, right,
because you want to talk to us. You want a ceasefire. Well, so okay, what do
right,
we get out of it? See,
right,
it's flipped. They
right.
flipped it
That's
upside
right.
down.
That's right.
Okay, I wanted to short intermission, everyone. All countries involved in this conflict have their own propaganda, so let's all be very, very careful, okay? Who's winning?
Right, right,
I
right.
don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
right,
Who's not losing? Iran isn't, what does that mean? We don't even know how to define that right now. It's still standing. George is right. It's
I
still
agree.
standing.
Exactly.
So who's winning and who's losing? Go somewhere else for that because I've been watching it all day and it's like,
Mm,
well,
right.
how do you know? Okay, how do you know? Now, the attack on Aramco and things like that, my suspicion is that was the Israelis because there looks like even in this insanity of this, there seems like an implicit understanding. What is this region known for other than Islam? Oil. And that's the lifeline of everybody,
Right.
everybody. It doesn't have to be Sunni or Shia. Oil is oil, and except for a few nutcases in the West, everybody wants fossil fuel. Okay, it doesn't look like to me, at least logic would dictate that the Iranians are not interested in destroying these oil facilities. If their facilities start being destroyed, well, that will change the script.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
the only country that would want that right now is Israel. Okay. So we'll again, just put that on the back burner because Israel's going to do false flags. Okay. Even if it's at the expense of the United States. I mean, for heck sake,
Right.
the U.S. is in a war that it never needed to be in again.
Right. Right. No, no, I think that's yeah. No, I think that's absolute right that we have to see who's behind this. Now, having said that, um, Iran obviously has an interest in raising the costs for all of the Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, and to show them, hey, these security guarantees that you assumed for
Exactly.
decades
Exactly.
ensured your security. Well, they're not worth the paper they were written on.
Yeah. All that money and so little
Yeah.
security.
So therefore, in future, you may want to reconsider your foreign policy. You may think that this policy that you've been, in the case of Saudi Arabia, since the 1930s, of being wedded to the United States, it may not be your best option. You may think in terms of working something out with your neighbors, and think in terms of security in your neighborhood rather than relying on the United States.
George, I just, right before we convene, uh, Saudi Arabia has declared war on Iran. I didn't hear that. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear that either. No,
I
no.
didn't either. Okay, I think somebody's jumping the gun
I
here.
think
Okay.
so. I haven't heard that. I would be surprised that they would
I'd
go
be surprised if they
that
did.
far. No, at this stage. I mean, that
No,
they
I mean, these are the
at this
countries
stage.
that need open doors, not
Right,
slammed shut right now.
right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Uh,
George, well, again, we're not so multidisciplinarian as a lot of people want to claim they are. But, Trump doesn't seem very confident to me, or maybe I'm looking for
I go.
something.
I'm getting that impression too. He doesn't look well.
He doesn't look well.
Looking at his face, he does not look well. He kind of almost like his face is like a kind of a waxwork. It's like, that kind of usual kind of ruddy, cheeks. He doesn't have them. He does not
Well,
look.
it's almost kind of in autopilot. It's like there's something else going on in the
Right.
back of his mind. I mean, he's media savvy enough that he can almost do it in autopilot. Okay.
Right. Yes, yes. No, that's right. But he's not looking well, and that of course brings us to the issue of the rationale. So we saw the that bizarre 8 minute monologue that Trump announced I guess it was Friday night, Saturday morning, the attack, wearing a hat, which was kind of strange way to announce a
And
major military operation.
why at a podium like that
Yeah,
and
that's,
at a
yeah,
distance too?
yes, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, we've in our lifetime we've seen plenty Oval Office addresses, and you're trying to you want to look serious, but you also want to look inviting. You want to be in touch with the
And
viewer
the
with
very
it.
least, exactly, you want to present a strong case, as strong a case as you have, and you want to do it while looking presidential, like as in command. He certainly didn't look that, but anyway, he delivered that address, which where he listed all the grievances from going all the way back 47 years, which seems strange. Okay, well, you got all these grievances. What's that got to do with today? But anyway, he did all of that, and it seems like regime change was the order of the day, which was different from all the things that he had been saying before. But and he made that front and center of that video address. But then Marco Rubio earlier this week was answering,
Learn the truth.
yes, and what he said was quite extraordinary. So let's just look at what Rubio said during this news conference. And then this was repeated by Speaker Mike Johnson, the point he was made here. So let's
And
just,
then I think it was the National Review tried to recycle it.
yes, that's
Okay.
right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, forget National Review, and that's just a propaganda outlet.
Second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. In fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
All right. So that was a quite extraordinary statement by U.S. Secretary of State. I mean, if we try to parse what he says, Israel was going to attack Iran. And there was nothing that we, the United States, the mighty United States, the world's overwhelming superpower, there was nothing that we could do to stop Israel from doing so.
Did you even try?
Exactly. Nothing we could do.
It didn't even try.
Um, and then we came to the conclusion that, once we realized there was nothing we could do to stop Israel, even though there are dependency, we bankroll them and everything, nothing we could do. So we concluded that. And then we decided that if this was done by Israel and we couldn't stop them, Iran would retaliate against the United States. Now, that in itself is very questionable because Iran has never done that.
No.
Israel and Iran exchanged missile attacks in 2024. Iran did not target the United States. In the 12-day war, remember, this was just Iran and Israel going at it. Only at the very end did the United States jump in
Swoop in, right?
exactly and hit those nuclear facilities. And then there was an agreement between the United States and Iran that okay, like you can have a freebie, a free shot at our base in Qatar. So how were they able to draw this conclusion that the Iran would retaliate against the United States?
Yeah, I mean, sophomore year in high school, I was on the debate team. You would have lost that debate. Okay. It's so full of holes. There's no logic to it. And most importantly, did you even attempt to say, no, yeah,
Right,
you want to go in, you go in.
right.
Because we know from what George just said, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to attack us. They're going to attack you.
Yes,
Okay. So
yes,
maybe you should think about it. Okay.
right.
Now, this Marco Rubio, you just maybe lost your presidential bid right there.
I think so.
I think you
And
just blew it, dude.
but then it's even more bizarre. So having made that drawn that conclusion, we decided rather than get on the phone to Iran and say we're staying out of
We're
this.
not in this one.
This has nothing to do with us. Rather than do that, we decided that we would join in this attack and thereby guaranteeing that that Iran would attack U.S. facilities. Uh, so it's like you saying you know your friend is about to go get drunk and go on take the car and and go on a binge. So rather than try to stop your friend, by taking the car
Give
keys
me the
away,
keys. Give me
you
the
say,
keys.
"Well,
Give me
I'll
the
get drunk
keys.
myself and I'll join you." And I mean that's the logic of it. So they're going to do something stupid. So therefore, the way to resolve that is to do something stupid ourselves.
Yeah, well, this is probably the most bizarre display of message lack of control than we've ever seen in our life. It wasn't Bibi Netanyahu that ordered two aircraft carriers and their battle fleets. It didn't, or it wasn't Netanyahu that ordered alerts all across the Middle East. No, I mean, this for me, this is just a display of the inability
Right.
to speak truth. It was the Americans and the Israelis wanted war with
Right.
Iran, and this is what we have. Okay, we have, and it's important in its historical context. We know how we got started here now.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and we can discuss this until the cows come home. But right now, they got the war that they wanted. Now I wonder if they have buyer's
That's right.
remorse.
That's exactly right. Um, and that's the key point that you've just made, which is, well, who put these these aircraft carriers into place? I mean, that wasn't done by Israel. Now, Trump yesterday was meeting Chancellor Schmerz
Oh,
of
that was a
Germany.
pathetic display. That was pathetic. Europe, just turn off the lights and shut the door. Okay,
Yes.
really.
And of course, he was asked on this very question. And naturally, no one is really terribly happy, at least of all Trump, with this admission by the U.S. Secretary of State that we really don't have any say in our foreign policy. We don't really decide whether we go to war or we don't go to war. These decisions have been taken out of our hands and they're made in Israel. And so therefore,
And that is a choice.
yeah, but
It's a choice. Okay.
um, so Trump then came up with a wholly new account of what really happened. So let's just watch what Trump said in that Oval Office meeting with Chancellor Schmerz. Here it is.
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt.
All right, so that's a new thesis that they were going to attack first. Now, even on the face of it, it's very strange why Iran population 92, 93 million, therefore a quarter of the size of the United States, has no nuclear weapons, it hasn't even remotely got the military power that the United States has, that Iran would decide to launch an attack on the United States. I, you know, it doesn't seem plausible. That all these years, they could have tried to launch an attack against the United States, and they've not done so. But now suddenly, with this huge armada in place, they're going to decide that, well, this is the right time to attack the United States. Uh, so, but the interesting thing is also,
Well, George, during the 12-day war, they didn't attack the United
no,
States.
they did not. But interestingly, because if that's true, if he made the decision that Iran was going to attack the United States, why did you forget to mention that during your 8 minute monologue? I mean, you'd have thought that might be quite an important point to.
Well, that's an imminent danger. That would
Yeah,
have
you've
been.
got an imminent threat. We were under threat from attack. So now, so Rubio had first said this. Oh well, Israel was going to launch this attack, nothing we could do. So we preempted the attack by launching an attack ourselves and thereby ensuring an attack on us by Iran. So he came up with this loony theory. And now we've got an even more loony theory, which is that there was an imminent attack from Iran that was coming, which is very odd because all the reports over the weekend had been that it was this meeting. They knew about this meeting of the Iranian top brass. So the United States was already planning to attack either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, but then they heard that there would be this meeting on Saturday morning, and so they delayed the attack precisely to hit the Iranian chiefs. So that's a little odd. That also doesn't seem to jibe.
You
Um,
know, George and I, it's remarkable how the run up to the war against Iraq in 2003, it's so fresh in my memory. A lot of things since then, maybe not. Um, they, they really didn't prepare to justify their
right,
act of aggression. I mean,
right.
this is the sloppiest thing I've ever seen an administration do. It just and over the course of 5 days, they keep trying to see which one will catch, which
Which one will which?
rationale will
Okay.
catch. Okay, and none of them do.
No, but what they're doing now, because these casus belli theories are so ludicrous that they're trying to shift the burden onto Iran. So it's somehow Iran is attacking. The Gulf is on fire because Iran is on the attack, and then they're hoping that people will just not really take an interest in just what we're doing, which is, well, let's just go through, the origins of this. And what are they saying about the origins rather than get caught up in, the day-to-day blows. But that's what they're trying to do. That's what, oh, it's everything is on fire. And there, I think it does remind me a little bit of the bombing of Yugoslavia because they started bombing. They also didn't really have a plan. They just figured Milosevic would cave within 48 hours. When he didn't, then they came up with a later explanation. Oh well, we tried to avert an ethnic cleansing campaign. That's why we launched this attack. That he was about to launch this ethnic cleansing of the Kosovo Albanians. But look at all these refugees that are fleeing. They're fleeing from Milosevic. But of course, the flight of the refugees came after the start of the bombing. But no one really paid any attention to that. Oh my God, look at what Milosevic is doing. But it was the NATO bombing that triggered the refugee flight. So something very similar is happening. Iran is unleashing all these drones and these missiles, yeah, in response to an unprovoked attack.
Another thing that is circulating around, and I can't get my head around it. Iran attacked Cyprus. I think it was Hezbollah that did that, and not the Iranians.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to stress the point here. I mean, a lot, one of the worst things that's happened to humankind is Twitter, okay? Because there's so much
Right.
disinformation on there,
Right.
and it's so heavily propagandized. And I actually, for this conflict, I don't pay any attention to
Right.
Twitter at all, zero, okay? Maybe some commentary from people, but not claims. Um, we're half an hour into this, George. I fully expect that Iran's going to have the shit bombed out of it.
Yeah. So
Still,
I think it's clear it's happening. I mean, there's no Iran is suffering severe casualties. I mean, we're already saying that at least 1,000
at least.
have been killed. Most of them have to be civilians. And then, of course, we have the schoolgirls, the
Which
school,
gets almost no
the
coverage.
girls' school, and it's
No
very
coverage.
interesting because
So,
that some commentators have tried to call into question that the veracity, but the problem that those people are having, which is that if there was even the slightest doubt that it didn't happen, or if there was the slightest doubt, or it was really the Iranians who did this themselves, we would have been hearing about it nonstop from Israel. Israel always first up front and center. Oh no, this is all Hamas. This is Hamas lies, Hamas propaganda, so Iranian propaganda. Every time the Americans have been asked, what do they say? We're looking into it. We're looking into it. How difficult is it to look into it? You know what time you started your attacks. It wouldn't be hard to find, the record of your attacks. So you're still looking into it,
all these things have electronic signatures, everyone.
right?
There's not much to look into. The fact of the matter is, until I'm convinced otherwise, Israel has a very long and deadly history of killing children.
Right,
Okay, so I'm sorry.
right,
That's
right,
the historical precedent we have. Changed my mind.
right. So I think so. I think always, if there was any doubt, we would have heard about it. If there was that even the slightest hint, oh, I think it was the IRGC that actually attacked the school in order to blame us, we'd have heard about it. But Hexeth, he did another news conference earlier today. He was asked again, we're looking into it. So okay, you basically did it. You haven't yet. You don't yet have the guts to own
Yeah.
up to it, but probably in a couple of days they will say it, and they won't say it. They're sorry. They will never say that they're sorry.
Oh,
Uh,
mistakes were made.
Mistakes
Mistakes
were
were
made. Exactly. Mistakes were made. In any case, it's all Iran's fault. So they should have done whatever. So yeah. So but this.
I just want to stress to everybody, that is probably the single most focused on story in the global South in this conflict. The whole world is talking about this and enraged about it. But you can't talk about it in Europe and you can't talk about it in North America.
Yeah.
Okay? But the whole world, the rest of the world, this is what they're talking about. So it just shows how much of a bubble the West is in all of this. Iran is the talk of the town. I mean, and it's very reminiscent vis-a-vis Ukraine. Russia is standing up to the entire collective West, NATO and the collective West. This is what they're saying about Iran right now. Will that help Iran's case on the ground? Well, of course not. Okay.
Yeah.
But we do live in the age of battling narratives. Okay. Iran is winning this narrative.
No, I think so. I mean, despite the fact that Western media want to try and make it that Iran is the aggressor, they're attacking all these the Gulf states. Oh well, these Gulf states, they had nothing to do with it. Iran is just. It doesn't matter.
Right.
You are allies of the United States. You house
Not just
U.S. forces.
allies.
You house U.S. forces.
That's right. You're housing U.S.
Exactly.
forces.
Exactly. And U.S. forces are hitting Iran. So Iran is absolutely within its rights to hit U.S. forces anywhere in the region.
Including
And
CIA
right, that's right.
countries.
And that's what they're doing. They're hitting U.S. forces in the region. Um, Here Trump kind of goes on, but again, he kind of blurts all sorts of things out as he talks here.
Feel strongly about that. We have great negotiators, great people, people that do this very successfully, and have done it
Who?
all their lives.
Witkoff and Kushner?
Based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. So, if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand, but Israel was ready, and we were ready, and we've had a very, very powerful impact because virtually everything they have has been knocked out now. Their missile count is going way down. Amazingly, they're hitting countries that were, let's call them neutral. Right? They lived together for.
They're not neutral. I mean, if you house U.S. bases, you're not neutral. But of course, when he says amazingly, maybe he's using amazingly in a kind of rhetorical way and not in any specific way. But why would you be amazed? This is what they said they would do. I mean, it's like they gave plenty of warnings and said that we're going to go all out if we're attacked. I mean, they said this over and over again. This is not going to be a restrained response as in the previous responses. This time we're going to go all out. Of course, they were going to attack the neighboring countries that house U.S. bases. So if he says amazing and you weren't expecting this, then you really are almost criminally irresponsible.
Well put. Well put.
Anyway, it goes on.
I think they were surprised. I was surprised. I think and now those countries are all fighting against them and fighting strongly against them.
No, they're not.
Write a story and they'll say why they did that, but they hit countries that had nothing to do with what's going on. They were sort of leaving everything alone. All of a sudden, they had missiles shot in, which shows you the level of evil that we're dealing with. They'll hit people that were actually at least somewhat friendly, and they had no problems with it. Also hitting only civilian places, hotels.
Well, not good bringing up civilians. Well, we just talked about the girls' school, and all the people that you killed in Iran.
Well, the supreme leader is civilian. I mean, he's not military.
And Ahmadinejad was definitely a civilian.
Yeah, but he's alive.
He is alive. Okay, has that been confirmed?
Well, again, there's reality and then there's Twitter.
Right,
okay?
because I'm having difficulties getting the confirmation that he's dead. But
he seemed in good shape the video I saw. But I have no, of course, how can I tell?
You can't tell whether when that was taken. Yeah.
Apartment buildings, and we're hitting them where it is much more appropriate. We're hitting them very hard, and the big scale hitting goes now. They no longer have air protection. They no longer have any detection facilities at all left, and so they're gonna be in for a lot of hurt. These are bad people. These are people that killed. I guess it's 35,000. It's coming out 35,000 over the last 3 weeks. Protesters.
Just make it up.
Just make it up. Yeah.
So these are bad people, and the leader of the pack is gone. And as you know, 49 people were taken out in the first hit, and I guess there was another hit today on the new leadership, and it looks like that was pretty substantial also. So they're getting hit very hard, and we'll see what happens. A lot of people are coming forward. A lot of the people you would least suspect want to quit. They want to have immunity. They're asking for immunity, and probably.
Do you have any idea what he's talking about?
As you would say, laying down their gun.
Doesn't seem to be much evidence of this. I mean, all the talk about some kind of a uprising against the government. I haven't seen any of that.
Well, he may be talking about the Kurds.
Well, I want to talk about that because that's a.
Well, I don't want to spoil it, but you had the best Twitter response of the day. I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to tweet it yourself.
See what happens. In the meantime, we're just continuing to go forward. Our military is the #1 in the world by far, and we are. Everything's big in my book. Venezuela was big. This is big. The original hit. Midnight Hammer was big. Everything you view is big, but it's not considered very big by some standards, by some of our standards. We have a military like no other military that's ever been
Stream of consciousness
You're
there.
right. Look, so he's asked, what's the worst case scenario that you have planned for?
Well, I don't think there's a worst case. We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint. They're still lobbing some missiles. At some point, they won't even be able to do that because we're hitting all of their carriers. We're hitting all of their missile stock. You know, they built up all these missiles over the last few years. They had a lot of them. They've shot a lot of them, and we're knocking out a lot. I guess the worst case would be we do this, and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen.
Oh, that, oh,
Oh,
oh, oh, that's an interesting one. So,
and what was it all for? Jeez.
yeah, you might have thought a little bit about that, that Khamenei was really kind of a moderate
Oh,
in Iran, a real moderate,
and
much more moderate than his
there's
predecessor,
no
Khomeini.
irony in there's
Yeah,
no irony in George's voice here. Okay, they're gonna regret that. They will. But that's probably outside of killing of the children. The assassination of the supreme leader was the cardinal mistake of this entire campaign, at least to date. Okay.
right, right. That's right. You remember, I mean, Khamenei had made the decision, the fatwa, not to develop nuclear weapons. He could have done it then.
Twice,
Yeah,
twice.
that's right. He could have done it. He could have done it back in the day, and then Iran would be in a much stronger position because he would have nuclear weapons. He didn't do it. It is Khamenei who pushed his government to sign the JCPOA. There was a lot of people within the Iranian ruling elite who were against this. They thought this we're being snookered. This is a trap. We're walking into a trap, and they were of course right. They were being snookered. They were walking into a trap. I mean, we know exactly how the trap was sprung. You sign this, and then within the 2 or 3 years, the United States walks away, and all this sanctions relief that you were expecting, well, wasn't going to happen. And instead, they took advantage of Iran gradually being weakened, and then, of course, the trap was snapped when this final onslaught. So yeah, I mean they were right, and Khamenei was wrong. So yeah, somebody was going to come along who was going to take a much harder view than Khamenei did.
Well, Trump just admitted the entire strategy could be called Russian roulette.
Yeah,
We'll see. That's it.
that's right. But then he goes on even more damningly.
We don't want that to happen. It would probably be the worst. You go through this, and then in 5 years, you realize you put somebody in who is no better. So we'd like to see
I
somebody.
love when Trump argues with himself.
I know. It's just very funny. You're not really supposed to kind of blurt these kinds of things out. Yeah, you come along and you got someone nobody. Yeah, that's kind of the problem when you go for regime change. If you don't have anyone in mind, and then yeah, exactly. You just
Well,
simply you start shooting and hope that you'll hit someone just randomly.
but it seems to me that's just so telling of what he just said. Is I'm pretty sure. I mean, I really want to hope that there was at least some kind of debate because someone would have said that. Mr. President, I mean, if we don't install from the get-go a regime that is friendly to us, we're going to probably go through this again in 5 years.
Right.
And it probably just kind of rests in his temporal memory or something like that. Because he's probably sitting back in his chair and he's looking at the guys arguing, and he's just kind of, conjuring it up, like, well, somebody said to me once
Right, right.
about it. And he's doing that because Donald Trump doesn't have any original ideas at
No.
all. Okay.
Uh,
He really is a conveyor of other people's ideas.
right.
And whoever has the most influence, or as everybody loves to say, the last guy that whispered in his ear. But it's very telling. I mean, it's not like he's completely ignorant of the consequences of his actions.
No, no, he isn't. Um, um, but this is where he gets very amusing.
Bring it back for the people, and we'll see what happens with the people. They have their chance, and we've said don't do it yet. If you're going to go out and protest, don't do it yet. It's very dangerous out there. A lot of bombs are being dropped. But I would say that would be about the worst.
You have someone in mind right now. You said all the people you did have in mind.
So, do you have someone in mind right now? He's
Oh
asked.
God. Yeah.
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead.
All right, most of the people we had in mind are dead. Well, that's a problem. You
Well,
mean
who killed them?
yes? You mean you attacked you thought this was a great coup, attacking all these Iranian leaders, and then you thought, hey, we might actually kill the person that we have in mind to take over from Khamenei. Well, that's a problem. Didn't think of that one. Whoops. Given that you base this whole attack on the fact that they're all going to be in the same room.
So, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also.
So we now have another group, and they may be dead also. Wow, that's also a problem. But that's the thing about Trump. He kind of he says these things, and it's all on the record. I mean, it's got to be there. It is. It's on the record. So when historians come to write the origins of this onslaught, this is the record.
Yeah. It's Nixon taped his conversations, but they were supposed to be private. Trump just does it publicly.
Based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody. But we have.
So pretty soon we're not going to know anybody. Well, that's going to be a problem.
I mean, Venezuela was so.
All right, and then he goes on into Venezuela because that's his exclusive point of reference. He's always talking about this Venezuela.
But that's like insider trade. I made so much money, dear, today. Insider trading, and you're proud of it. I mean, obviously. The capture and kidnapping of Maduro was an inside job. I
Right.
mean, the outcome was it was sealed. There was no ambiguity. It was a done deal.
Right, that's right. Now, in light of what Trump said there, so we had the Israeli defense minister, some guy called Katz, Israel Katz, and he sent out this tweet today, and let's just read that. Yeah. So yeah, let's read this. Okay. Yeah, he says every leader appointed by the Iranian terror regime to continue and lead the plan to destroy Israel, to threaten the United States and the free world and the countries of the region, and to suppress the Iranian people will be an unequivocal target for elimination. So, whomever the Iranians choose as their leader will immediately be targeted by Israel. And of course, if you're targeted by Israel, that means effectively you're also targeted by the United States. It does not matter what his name is or the place where he hides. The Prime Minister and I have instructed the IDF to prepare and act by all means to carry out the mission as an integral part of the objectives of Operation Lion's Roar.
So that's just basically a death sentence for all Iranians. That's
Yes,
pretty blanket.
that's right. We will continue to act with full force together with our American partners to crush the regime's capabilities and create the conditions for the Iranian people to overthrow it and replace it. Now, so Trump says, well, we have someone in mind, but we killed him. Then we have the next batch. We killed the next batch. And then there's a third batch, but it's quite likely that we killed them too. Pretty soon we're not going to know anyone. And then Israel says, yeah, and we're going to kill the next bunch as well. Well, that's, a bit of a problem because, I mean, if you're hoping for some kind of a conclusion here, you know, you're, you're not going to get a conclusion since whoever's going to negotiate will immediately be targeted by Israel.
But that's the whole point. Israel wants a forever war.
Right, right.
As long as America protects them.
That's right. That's right. And I think is a very important point that, while we're talking about America and what America is trying to get out of this, which is still kind of baffling, there's no mystery about what Israel wants. That Israel wants the complete, total obliteration and destruction of Iran. I mean, that's it. There'll be nothing left of Iran. And
they want a Gaza. They want another Gaza.
Right, exactly. And then um, Israel will presumably target the Gulf states because they don't like the fact that these Gulf states have good relations with the United States.
Exactly.
It's been annoying them for decades.
That's right. No, because the Americans are like that extra security blanket.
Right.
They can keep the Israelis at bay because they are hosting American bases. They want that to come to an
Yep,
end.
exactly. And they don't like the Turks either. They like a regime change in
I mean,
Turkey as well.
it's truly remarkable. Here they are in the middle of a war. Iran is retaliating. The Houthis and Hezbollah will get the Iraqis involved here. The Gulf states have no idea what to do. But nonetheless, Israel. I'm sorry, they're invading Lebanon and they're taking more land in the West Bank. But nonetheless, they have time to target Turkey. Wow, amazing.
That's right. So we can see what Israel is trying to do here. But then we guess, well, why does Israel get to do all this for the United States? Well, then we have to really get into serious analysis of what goes on in the United States. The peculiar political, economic dynamic of the United States that it allows itself, this huge military superpower essentially allows itself to be the armed forces of this little state in the Middle East.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It, it- for George and I, this is um, uh, it confirms what people are really thinking in Washington. I thought NATO was supposed to be sacred, a sacred in line. Well, when it comes to the Turks, well, yeah, see,
Right,
they have no values, they have no
right,
principles whatsoever.
right,
Um, Turkey is a very important member of NATO. It really is because it has a real armed
right,
forces.
right,
Okay.
right. Well, I agree, but I think they obviously have some kind of a plan. I mean, look, they've already organized a coup before against Erdogan. I mean, that didn't work, but
And who tipped off Erdogan?
that's right, the
The Russians
Russians.
did.
Which is surprising that they did that because it's not like Erdogan had been a particular friend of Russia. This was only 1 year after the shooting down of a Russian fighter jet. There was no that was the time was relations were very quite tense between Russia and Turkey. But anyway, and Israel is as good as its word because they yesterday bombed the building where apparently a decision was going to be made as to who would be the next supreme leaders. As Israel bombs council choosing Iran's next supreme leader, official says the Israel Air Force struck the building housing Iran's Council of Experts in the holy city of Qom in an attempt to disrupt the process of appointing a new supreme leader. An Israeli defense official said, and then the Israeli defense official said the strike took place while votes were being counted. It isn't clear how many of the council's 88 members were in the building at the time. It seems like no one was there, so there may have been a kind of a decoy. But nonetheless, Israel still wanted to attack. We wanted to prevent them from picking a new supreme leader, and so that's so you know
As if that's going to, as if that's materially
no,
important.
and that's right, and I think that's what's interesting that um, the United States has essentially adopted this Israel strategy of
Right.
assassinations. This constant need to yeah, this assassinate, as if that's as you said, is going to make any difference. But now you brought up the issue of the Kurds, and that, of course, is quite interesting because um, the because the Kurds are a kind of eternal, um, you know, eternal plaything of U.S. politics. You know, over the years,
Yeah.
at various
Yeah.
points, suddenly, hey, let's use the Kurds. They
Yeah, the
tried.
Kurds are kind of the Charlie Brown of geopolitics. Okay, every time Charlie Brown wants to kick the football, Lucy picks it up. Okay, so go ahead, Joe. What was your tweet? Do you remember what you wrote?
Yes, I think it was something like, the Kurds have an impeccable record of always making the wrong move at the wrong time. Quite an amazing performance, and when we're at whatever the circumstances, they always make the wrong move. They choose the wrong allies, absolutely get obliterated
Yeah, but
in
it
the
has to.
process, and then they're waiting for the next go round.
Yeah, it seemed, I'm very cynical about the whole Kurdish issue. It seems to me that there must be some leadership, members in the leadership, they're just looking for a payday and then, go on their merry way, okay?
Right.
Because, you know, they're just offering up having their people obliterated. I mean, we could make a whole week of programs about the bad decisions of the Kurds.
That's right. And so the most recently, because it goes back a long time with, basically back in the 1970s, but even before that. But most recently, of course, they rose up against Saddam Hussein in the aftermath of Gulf War One. Saddam Hussein absolutely pulverized them, and they were under the impression the Americans were going to come in and fight on their behalf against Saddam Hussein. The Americans didn't do that, so that was and of course they did that against Bashar al-Assad, and now they've been told in no uncertain terms that they got to get with the program with Jelani.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, sorry.
But anyway, so this was the story about the Kurds, and here was the Axios said this scoop. Trump calls Kurdish leaders in Iran war effort, and then here we have President Trump spoke by phone with Kurdish leaders in Iraq on Sunday to discuss the war and what might come next. And then Trump spoke to leaders from the two main Kurdish factions, Barzani and Talabani. These are the same two guys. I remember them from the 90s. I mean, there was back then when the Americans were pushing them against Saddam Hussein. It's the same guys, and they're still apparently the leaders of these factions. And then a source with knowledge of the calls said they were sensitive and declined to give details of their contents. The calls were the culmination of months behind the scenes lobbying by Netanyahu. Israel has had close security, military, and intelligence ties with Kurds in Syria, Iraq, and Iran for decades. So yet another brilliant idea being pushed by Netanyahu, and that Trump seems to have embraced. And it is the general view, and certainly Netanyahu's view, that the Kurds are going to come out of the woodwork and that they're going to rise up. Netanyahu, who has been relentless in urging strikes on and regime change in Iraq, first advocated for the Kurds in a White House meeting with Trump. When he first came over and sat with Trump for hours, you would have thought Netanyahu had it all figured out, the official said. He had the successor planned out. He had the Kurds all figured out, two sets of Kurdish groups here and there. This many people are going to rise up, the official added. And then, and then we have on Sunday the Kurdistan Freedom Party, a Kurdish Iranian opposition group based in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, accused Iran of a punishing campaign of missile and drone attacks. And then 6 days before the war began, 5 dissident Kurdish groups sheltering in Iraq announced the formation of the coalition of political forces in Iranian Kurdistan. And then, so this is, they talk about this is similar to other things that they've done. And then here's CNN. The CIA working to arm Kurdish forces to start uprising in Iran.
Yeah, I mean, it's, CNN's not very original. How many years and situations in which the title CIA working to arm Kurdish forces to spark blah, blah, blah.
Right, right.
It's
No,
kind of a kind of a tired title, everyone.
I agree. I do think though that they're going to do this. They are going to try
Oh
this.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
Um, and I also think that they're working with other national groupings. I think the
yep.
Balukis, they're working on. The problem they have is that when you whip up the Kurds and the Balukis and maybe the Azeris, is you're going to upset all kinds of other states in the region. I'm not sure that Pakistan will exactly be very thrilled about whipping up Baluchi
Well, the
nationals.
Iraqi, I mean, the factions in Iraq that are actually hostile to the United States and aligned with Iran, they're not going to be very happy about this
No,
either.
no, no, that's right. And of course, Turkey
Of
is
course,
often
Turkey.
not very happy about it, when you start stirring up Kurdish irredentism. And the CIA is working to arm them with fomenting popular uprising. And the Trump administration has been in active discussions with Iranian opposition groups and Kurdish leaders in Iraq about providing them with military support. Um, now, the fact that they're doing this is already an admission that they don't think that this plan of bombing them into submission is going to do the job.
And bombing them into submission and a popular uprising.
Right, a popular uprising, exactly. So therefore they're now, this is the tried and true thing. Oh, we'll bring out the Kurds. Oh, like in Yugoslavia, let's stir up the Kosovo Albanians. They've been doing this. Of course, they were doing that in Tibet, back in the day, stirring up Tibetan nationalism. I mean, there's a long record of the CIA kind of creating these fake
Ukraine,
nationalisms.
Ukraine.
Yeah, Ukraine, exactly. Always ends in disaster. I mean, it's like, let's do this because it's always failed in the past, but we can do it. I guess it's a case of, hey, somebody else is going to pay the cost. I mean,
That's right.
America, somebody else is going to suffer. We won't be suffering.
Yeah,
They're going to suffer.
I have a bankroll. I mean, I can spend it or I don't spend it.
Right.
Sweat off my brow. You want to go fight? I'll help you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah, we'll bankroll you. And of course, you remember, with Cuba and the, all the Cuban nationals. I mean, this has been going on for years and years. Always ends in disaster. And then Trump has now embraced this folly. But the one thing, and here you can see that the model that they use in the case of Kosovo, which is if you stir up this nationalism, then when this is put down, you have the pretext for a humanitarian intervention. So hey, you stir up Kurdish nationalism, then when inevitably the Iranian army will put it down, probably pretty brutally, as most states would. Then, oh my God, the Kurds are being massacred. All our greatest, closest, warmest friends in the
Yeah,
whole
they
world.
fought with this in
They
Normandy.
fought with us in Normandy. They're being destroyed. We need to do something to help them. And so that's why it's also instructive, and I want to just show you here. Yeah, this when Trump in this interview with the New York Post, he says he's not going to rule out sending U.S. troops into Iran if necessary. If necessary, and he tells the Post war is progressing way ahead of schedule, of course. And then he said President Trump told the Post on Monday that he's not ruling out sending U.S. ground troops into Iran if they were necessary.
To do
Um,
what? To do what?
I don't know. It's that's the part that I find puzzling, which is, yeah, to do what? Presumably, the only thing I can think of is they're going to seize pieces of territory and try to give it to someone else. Um, I guess the plan is somehow to destroy the Iranian military capabilities to such an extent that Iran would be unable to withstand an invasion. Those kinds of plans nearly always go wrong. Oh, Iran is now completely destroyed. They won't be able to resist. I doubt it. Remember, in Iraq, the Saddam Hussein's army was also supposedly destroyed very quickly. That didn't mean the United States was able to occupy it at all subsequently. And then he says, I don't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground. Like every president says, there will be no boots on the ground. I don't say it. Trump said after launching strikes. I say probably don't need them if they were necessary. And then it says Secretary of
I
State.
mean, there was a reason why President said that. Okay.
Right, but it is true. They always say no boots on the ground, and then of course they always go back on their word. Just
Yeah.
like in Vietnam, how many times did U.S. officials said, no, this is not going to be another land-based war in Asia. No, the Americans are not going to get, no, we learned our lessons from Korea. No more land-based wars in Asia. Lyndon Johnson famously said, he was vice president, said, American boys are not going to be doing the job that Asian boys should be doing. And that's when he visited South Vietnam at 1961. We're not going to do it. Absolutely not. This is a job for Vietnamese boys, not for American boys. Every single president says all this. They don't mean it. And so there's no boots on the ground, except when there are boots on the ground. And then it says, Secretary of State Pete Hegseth said in a Monday morning press conference that no American troops are currently inside Iran. In other words, he's lying, because probably he said American troops, and it all depends on how you define American troops. I'm quite sure there are Americans on the ground in Iran.
Well, there are Americans on the ground with shoes. Okay. Maybe not necessarily
Boots,
boots.
that's right. And President Trump ensures our enemies understand we'll go as far as we need to go to advance American interests, but we're not dumb about it. You don't have to roll 200,000 people in there and stay for 20 years. This is so stupid. They think they're being
Yeah.
very cute by making these references to 2000. Oh, we're not doing any nation building. Well, you are doing nation building. You just, well, nation destruction, which
Yes.
is kind of similar to what you were doing in Afghanistan. Nation destruction. You destroyed, but you didn't really create anything.
Yeah, when someone of Hegseth's stature says, "But we're not dumb," okay, that's a clue, everyone. Okay, that's a clue. Okay,
Yes, yes. Oh yeah, we're not going to make the mistakes George W. Bush and Dick Cheney does. You're doing exactly that. That is that
exactly that.
you said. Trump said. How many times did he say? We're not going to do no more of these Middle East wars. No more Middle East wars. Well, that's what you've got. You have a Middle East war, and you have no idea how to bring it to an end. You have no idea how what a final outcome would look like. You're just hoping something or other will turn up.
Hope over strategy. That's what
Right,
we have here.
right,
Hope over strategy.
right.
Okay, George did a good job here forensically, as usual here, but we're not calling this.
Yeah,
Not by any stretch of the
right,
imagination. I'm not calling this at all.
right,
Okay. Everyone, please be calm and cool-headed about this. This is a blunder for sure.
right,
Okay. What comes next? Because it is a blunder,
right.
It's so difficult to even contemplate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Now, one thing that George and I said at the very beginning, and I'm going to stand by it, you know, after 1 week here, there's going to be time for a very rigorous assessment of what's going on here because this is was supposed to happen fast, but
Correct.
really,
Correct.
okay. You
Correct.
know, um, uh, um, uh, get rid of the supreme leader. People will rise up. The Revolutionary Guard and the police will be giving their guns to the population. Okay, we're past that. Okay, and I'm glad we did the origin story here. It's important, I guess. Okay, but the first bullet has been fired. We're moving on.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. I mean, it's just that how sloppy their message control. Maybe that is a harbinger of what's next, and they can't keep their story straight.
No,
And
I think, yeah, and I think it is very important in all of these wars to get that origin. This is how you explain what you did. It was based on lies. You lied and lied and lied. And I think that's very important. Now, is it going to stop the next one? No, it isn't. Just like all the talk, well, after Iraq, there'll be no more of these stupid wars. Yes, of course, it was immediately there were more of these stupid wars. So they don't really change anything. But it's important to set the
yes,
record straight and not
well,
allow the media just spin out all these deceits.
I think it's fair to say that if you start out an endeavor like this based on lies, it's only the lie will compound itself over and over and over again. There is no U.S. national interest here at all. Zip. Okay. And and maybe that is one of the legacies of the Iraq War because the media lied so much. I expect politicians and administrations to do it. I didn't, George W. Bush lied to us. Yeah, yeah. What for me, what was worse is how the media
Right,
carried water for those lies.
right,
Okay. And at least this time around, people are like, huh? Huh?
right, right,
I mean, yesterday you said it was this, and
right,
I don't, it's American boys are and young women are dying now, and
right,
I
right.
still don't understand from you. You told me I don't understand this now.
Right.
That's
No,
a
no,
very
that's
bad
right.
beginning, George. Very bad.
That's a very bad. And that I think is part of the problem that is being done by Trump. The media are no fans of Trump's, and so they're generally much more critical of Trump than they would be of any other president. Because even George W. Bush, though a Republican, they didn't particularly like him, but he was still part of the political establishment. His family and everything else. So yeah, they were ready to back George W. Bush. They're not prepared to give Trump any breaks at all.
Well, and particularly because the Democrats are intellectually brain dead. They don't have an autopsy about what went wrong with Biden, what went wrong with Harris. No, they've been handed an easy one. This is an easy one,
Right,
okay? And so they're gonna run with it. That's called politics, everyone.
right,
That's the way it works here. But you're right, George. I mean, Trump's worst enemy is himself.
right. No, 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 that's right. Um, where are we now? Obviously, as you said, I think it's very difficult to know where we are. I think one can say that, at least for the time being, very unlikely there's going to be any move on the part of Iran to make any concessions, to open negotiations. So if Trump is putting out feelers, and I'm sure he's putting out feelers, hey, let's reopen talks in Geneva. Iran saying we're not doing any more of these talkings. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me three times, shame on you. This is going to be the fourth time they're going to be snookered by the United States into some negotiations. That's not going to happen. I think that's and particularly now that Khamenei is gone, and the very person I think who was
That's the game changer right
yeah,
there.
yeah,
That is the blunder inside this blunder.
right,
That was a huge
right,
mistake to do that. As
right,
a matter of fact, it would have been better to leave him alone and have him preside over a country that he can do nothing to protect. That would have been a far more effective strategy. Oh, you're supreme leader, he can't protect you, okay?
Right.
No, what they did was the worst possible thing they could do, okay? Because
Yeah.
that just hit everybody. And again, the way he is portrayed in the West, particularly by Donald Trump in that 8-minute speech, it's such an abomination. It
Right.
has nothing to do with reality. Sure, you can disagree with political figures, societal leaders, and things like that, but to characterize it that way was just completely wrong. And it's one of the things, like living in a country like Russia, all of these things are translated into Farsi. People say that's what they think of him. Okay, I mean, I didn't agree with his politics, but that's not fair.
Right.
And what you've done is you've just fired up an entire population. So, if this is their opening gambit, oh my God, George, I cannot even, again, I want to be honest. What is going to happen, everyone?
Sure.
I don't know. Okay, but one thing I think George and I are going to agree on here, it's very important. Iran is still standing, and that's what's
Exactly.
most
And
important.
that's absolutely right. And I think that's the key here. This is an asymmetrical war. Iran does not have to defeat the United States. Iran, as long as it prevails, and as long as it's got something in the tank, and can still inflict pain, all kinds of pain on the United States and Israel, then essentially the U.S. has failed. And then everything else just keeps accumulating all these ridiculous reasonings, the lack of any kind of an exit strategy. All this just keeps adding up as long as it's going. So I think that's the crucial thing that we're going to be watching for. You know, can Iran prevail? Because as long as it does, then I think the problems are going to start accumulating very, very quickly and very seriously for the U.S. And again, I'm just thinking about back in the 1990s against the Serbs. That was a decade of propaganda against the Serbs. It was it was all lies. But nonetheless, Clinton could get away with a prolonged bombing campaign because everyone hated the Serbs to such an extent, thanks to the media. Again, was there's nothing you can say about the media that you shouldn't say even in harsher terms, but they could do it. This time, it doesn't work. The internet is now much more important than it was back then, and you can't do the lies. You can't do the lies as easily now as you could 25 years ago.
Yep, yep. There weren't any podcasts back then,
Exactly.
also.
That's right.
All right, everyone. We're trying to be as dispassionate about this as we can. Don't believe everything you read because this is the thickness of war propaganda that everybody participates in.
Right.
Everyone does.
Right.
Okay, so we try to stick with what we can verify and what seems common sense. Okay. And I think we achieved that here. All right, everybody. This is a Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. George did a pretty good presentation here. I think there you go, George. I'm patting you on the
Thank you,
back.
thank you, thank you so much. But as soon as and whenever you say that the dogs come out of the woodwork, so to speak, it's like, yeah, we did all that. We deserve all the compliments, and above all, we deserve the money. We don't work for free. I mean, they say, we work. We
No,
could
no, no. Work for food. No, 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 no.
so, we could be sleeping and having a good time resting. Instead, we're working. So something has to go into that tip jar. It has to be filled up, moving in the right direction. So if you have anything at all lying around that you're not using, dollar bills, $100 bills, whatever, straight into the tip jar. No questions asked. Um, we're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve on the technology. And above all, we'll be able to allow the dogs to enjoy their well-deserved rest. So remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye-bye.